welcome along to the latest edition of the Daggers and Lyds podcast. They are coming thick and fast as we build up to the Women's World T20, which kicks off in the United Arab Emirates in around about 3 or 4 days' time. Great to have you along. It was great to have our last episode with Lauren Bell. Lydia Greenway is alongside me. We're going to be joined to preview Group B in a few moments' time by the world-renowned commentator Natalie Germanos. But Lyds, it's all over. Our summer is done. We have stopped travelling the length and breadth of the UK, and there's a small amount of sadness about that, don't you think?
There is, isn't there? I think for whatever your capacity within the game of cricket, I think that there's no better feeling than knowing that the cricket season is just around the corner. And you have sort of benchmarks for it, don't you? The smell of freshly cut grass. Like for me, that's one. I just know that the spring and the summer isn't far away. And then obviously there's more sort of interest on the social channels about what's happening. And then you get to the end and it's like, oh, well, that's it. There we go.
Where's it all gone? Where's it all gone? And now you're sort of not twiddling your thumbs because obviously, you're going out to the World T20. I'll be watching the World T20, and so the cricket continues. But there is a sort of weird sadness about the fact that you can look back on what I think has been a lovely summer. When you look at the entirety of the game, and I'm not just talking about the women's game in general, but the men's and the women's game, it's been a strange one from a men's point of view. I think it's been a thoroughly enjoyable one from the women's perspective. I think it's been a far stronger summer for the women's game than it has been for the men's. And you look back at the series against Pakistan, the series against New Zealand as well. And yes, England have been dominant, but I think the real sort of mainstay of the summer was actually the women's 100. I thought that was a fantastic competition, got a huge amount out of it, and just the magnitude of it just going up level by level by level over the course of 3 or 4 years has been fantastic. Is that a fair enough comment from your perspective too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 100 for me is just such a good way of getting people involved in the game from a viewership point of view and even playing. And, talking specifically from a female point of view, I just know of so many clubs who have set up a women's softball section, and their sort of team bonding day is a day at the 100. And I just think it's been brilliant for the game. The quality of cricket, I think, has been outstanding, possibly the best that we've had so far because of the quality of players that we had over. Looks like you agree with that, just with your nod of the head.
Yeah, totally.
And hopefully that's a really good step forward. The amount of pay now, I think, involved for the players, obviously, again, we've seen increases. No doubt we'll see more increases as the tournament develops. So, yeah, it's been a thoroughly enjoyable summer.
Certainly has, and we look forward to what next summer will bring, of course, and hopefully we'll be a big part of that, and we'll be continuing. And you mentioned about club cricket, and we have not forgotten on the Daggers and Lyds podcast about your club stories. We still want to get them in. We'll probably do an absolute truckload of them in the early part of next season as well, but we want to gather a load together, hear your stories of how you're developing the women's game within clubs, and then we can get them out on the podcast and we can learn just a little bit more. Right, before we preview Group B, and we've got another game today, we did over-under game for Group A. We're going to be having a game of What's the Word? I'll explain all of that in a few moments' time to preview Group B with Natalie Germanos. Just want to run through a little bit of news that's going on. Another signing in the tier structure, and this comes from the Northeast, and I think this is a big one. I really do. And that's Maddie Villiers signing for Durham for next year. She signed a 3-year deal. This is to add on to the signings that they have already made. We've already heard Bess Heath and Holly Armitage are going to be playing their cricket up there. But Maddie Villiers up at Durham, Lydia, your immediate response?
My immediate response is it's a long way from Essex, where Maddie Villiers is from. So I'm guessing she's going to move. But do you know what? When people say, "Oh, you're going to have to move to play cricket," it's no different to the real world in
Yeah,
inverted commas. When you get a new job and it's paid well and you've got security, then you have to bite the bullet and you have to make the move. So whether she's doing that or not, I don't know. But you would think she's going to have some sort of base up there. But I mean, from a cricketing point of view, that's a really good signing. I agree
yeah,
with you, Daggers. I think she's obviously not on the England radar at the moment. So from an availability point of view, you want to get those players who are, in a way, just on the cusp. And disappointingly for them, they can't break into the side. But what you have there is a player who is of nearly England quality, maybe England quality, and someone who's going to be available for you for, the majority of the season, assuming that she doesn't get injured. So, yeah, what a signing that is.
yeah. I think it's really, really strong signing for Durham and sort of making their presence felt, especially, them being the first year, even though they were part of the Diamond sort of setup, the Northern Diamond sort of setup. I think,
Yeah.
that is a real statement signing. So congratulations to Marcus North and Danny Hazel for securing Maddie Villiers. Some more serious news. Won't spend too long on this, but it came, it's sort of out of the blue, if you like. It was sort of very unheralded, and the news came out and popped, is that England captain Heather Knight was admitted a charge over a social media post in 2012. So we've had this sort of situation before where old social media posts have been found and spotted and players have been punished because of previous posts. It's happened in the men's game. You think of Ollie Robinson. That's a situation similar to this. She was 21 at the time, attending an end-of-season fancy dress party at a cricket club in Kent, and a picture of Heather Knight in blackface was posted to the Facebook account of another individual. Now, the upshot of this is that she's been reprimanded by the Cricket Discipline Committee and fined £1,000, which is suspended for 2 years. And she said in a statement via the England and Wales Cricket Board that I'm truly sorry for the mistake I made in 2012. It was wrong. I have long regretted it. Back then, I simply was not educated as to the implications and consequences of my actions. As I have become since, there was no ill intent meant. Whilst I can't change the past, I'm passionate and committed to using my platform to promote inclusivity across the game, ensuring underrepresented groups are afforded the same opportunities and fulfillment within the game as I have. So she has done that. Just a response also from Richard Cool, the ECB chief executive, saying Heather recognises this was a serious error of judgment which took place more than 10 years ago and has rightly apologised. As a public figure and leader, Heather has worked tirelessly to foster a more inclusive and equitable future for cricket. So that has come out recently. The interim director of the cricket regulator, Dave Lewis, said cricket is working to become a more inclusive sport, and the cricket regulator is committed to acting positively and impartially whenever racist behaviour is reported to us. In this case, Miss Knight's behaviour was discriminatory and offensive. However, the CDC accepted there was no racist intent in her conduct. I welcome her acknowledgement of the potential impact of her behaviour and her unreserved apology. So, a little bit of a black spot in the previous history for Heather Knight. It's been dealt with. It's been dealt with through the proper authorities and the proper channels. One hopes this is not obviously, from her perspective, it's something that she, of course, regrets. I have no doubts about that. But it just sort of does show and really does rubber stamp the fact that if you are a professional sports person at whatever level, and these are things that you've got to be aware of, and especially when posting to social media. Okay, let's move on to more positive things. And last week we covered Group A in the Women's World T20. We previewed it, myself and Lydia, with a game of over-under. And I'm very pleased to say we have got a special guest joining us to preview Group B. One of the hardest women, if not the hardest woman, working woman in showbiz, has joined us all the way from, I'm assuming you're in South Africa at this moment in time, but Natalie Germanos, world-renowned commentator and colleague of ours in the summer on Sky Sports. Welcome to the Daggers and Lyds podcast for the first time not the last time. I'm getting that in early, just so that whilst we're talking, you can't get out of it. You have to be on numerous occasions. But great to have your company. Thank you. How are you? And where are you?
Thank you very much. Well, we'll see at the end of this if you want to bring me back on. So don't count your chickens just before they've hatched.
Cool.
I am at a place which I've forgotten about. It's called Home, Home. I didn't know about this place. I'd forgotten about it for a little while. I do pay for this place. I know it goes off my account like every month, but yeah, I kind of forgotten about it. But yeah, I'm actually spending a couple of weeks at home before moving on again.
Before you actually jump in there, Lyd, in fact, we've had some comments on our YouTube channel. And it tickled me a little bit because we had one comment that actually said, Daggers looks like he's broadcasting from his office, his home, and he's got pictures at the back, and my former shirts and stuff like that. And Lyd's background is there is nothing there. Now, granted, you've just moved house, so you've not got round to decorating and putting everything up. But I think the comment used was that it looks like she's broadcasting from a women's refuge. That's actually what it was. And Nat, it actually looks like, given that you've got a brick wall behind you, it looks like you're broadcasting from jail. That's where it actually looks like you're broadcasting from. So it is your home. You've not been put away for tax fraud or something like that.
No, definitely not. This actually, funny enough, is my office, but in front of me, I've got a mural of the big five animals, if anybody doesn't know that. I've got like a wooden cabinet and stuff in front. It just happens this is where my desk is, and actually the best light in the house. It just worked out. I am yet to put things up on the wall. You see, my problem is I don't have shirts with my name on it, so that's why they're not up.
They instantly regretted giving me shirts with my names on it and stuff like that. If Lydia did that, she could plaster the entirety of her house with shirts with her name on it, with England tours and all of that sort of stuff. Is that not fair, Lydia?
Well, yeah, I've got them in my wardrobe. The only thing I've got framed is my England cap. So it's we got given these really nice caps from the ECB, which has got all of our shirt numbers. So for Test cricket, ODI, and T20. So I'll have to get that somewhere. But apart from that, Nat and I, we're looking a bit bare, but that's all right.
For those on YouTube, our YouTube channel, is it something a little bit like that?
Yes, it is.
Yes, one of those.
Yeah.
That's my Warwickshire. That's my Warwickshire cap. That's as far as I got. Just a Warwickshire cap. Didn't get anything with any lions, but I got one with a bear, which is not, interestingly, one of the big five. So anyway, be that as it may, it's great to have you along with us. First off, you have been all over the show. The air miles count for you must be through the absolute roof. Just give us a little bit of an insight, because we saw you during the Women's 100. Great to have you over for that competition. It always is. But you are now just hardly ever at home as well over the last 12 months. Where have you been?
Yeah, the last 12 months have been nuts. I will admit, I racked up the air miles, but I did use them recently to upgrade myself to first class. Only because
how was that?
It was a 16-hour flight from Miami to Dubai, and actually going the other way as well. When I went to the World Cup, I did the same thing, and because it was on the smaller Boeing plane, so I decided might as well use them. They expire anyway, and they're there. So it was pretty nice. I'm not going to lie.
What did you get? What do you get in first?
Oh, you get slippers, you get pajamas. You get a whole, normally if you travel in business class, you get like a little bag full of like cream and toothpaste and that kind of thing. This had a whole lot more stuff in it, all sorts of things in it, and other ones to choose from, and a snack bowl that they're just constantly filling up. You can order food anytime you want. It's not set to a certain time. You obviously get like a massive, almost like your own house. It feels like you're in your own house, and this big chair to sleep in and all sorts of things. So it was nice. I won't lie.
And have you had any time to actually have a holiday? Because I know you're a keen photographer, aren't you? And you go to do the safaris and spot all the wildlife. Have you had any time to do the stuff that you enjoy outside of work?
Yeah, unfortunately, the last 12 months I've had a chance once. I went in May. So I went for about a week to the bush, because before that I'd been in the UAE, I'd been in India for quite a bit, obviously the WPL, then the IPL after that. And then after that was World Cup. Obviously came over for the 100 as well, and then went back for women's CPL, for my first CPL experience as well, which was really great. But yeah, it's been pretty busy the last year. So I had the one opportunity in May to be able to go for a week to the bush and just switch off and, not even look at the phone or anything like that. And like you say, just take tons of photos. I'm that person who comes home with, not kidding with you, at least 2,500 photos. Like, that is, I'm not exaggerating. I take a whole bunch of photos. So
you're constantly walking around like that with your camera.
Yes, it's one time my mouth is shut, so that's the good part about it.
Well, it has been a chocker time for you, and it will continue to be so. That's why we are, again, hugely grateful for you to spend 20 minutes chatting Women's World T20 with us. And so we will get on to it. We will crack on, because there's loads to go through, and we are going to do it in a game format. I do like a game. And so last week was over under, where I sort of threw out some sentences and some figures and facts, and we both, myself and Lydia, had to choose whether we went over or under those. This, we are playing What's the Word, and it is a simple concept. I will throw out a statement or a sentence, and there is a blank which you can fill with a word or a phrase to what you think it's going to be. Hopefully, we have all chosen different phrases or words for these individual sentences that I'm going to throw out. So Group B, which contains England, South Africa, Bangladesh, Scotland, and the other team, which escapes me at this moment in time. Lydia, help me out.
Who got West Indies?
West Indies. Thank you very much. I should have had that written down on the list. I don't. But this is fly by the seat of your pants broadcasting, so hell with it. So they're the 5 teams. And we are going to go through the group with this game of What's the Word. So are you both ready? I'm going to pick a word as well. We will go round the horn. Explanations as to why you have picked that particular phrase will be forthcoming. So, first one, let's kick off with England. And the statement is, failure to reach the final for England would be blank. Lydia Greenway.
I am going to go for anticlimactic, because I think that they've got themselves into a position where there's a lot of expectation now on what England can do. And I think, as much as this is probably going to be one of the tightest T20 World Cups that we're going to see, I just think England are in such a good space, having seen them play over the last 12 to 18 months, or since the last World Cup, really, T20 World Cup. I just think it would be anticlimactic. So that is my word that I'm going to go for. Don't know if you guys agree with that.
I would say repeat disappointment, because obviously, as much as I was so over the moon with the result from the T20 World Cup in South Africa, because South Africa beat England and made their final for the first time. England were playing so well also through that World Cup as well. There was maybe some holes in some respects, and we saw it sort of filtering through, certainly a lot more than what we see now. But they were in such a good position also, even in that semi-final, that they probably felt that they were just about through. And it was almost like what India experienced against Australia in the semi-final, where India looked like they were through as well. And, of course, Australia came back. So I would go with it would be a repeat disappointment, because I agree with Lydia. The build-up has been unbelievable for England in so many ways. I think they've prepared really well. They've maybe lucked out in some ways with their fixtures mostly being in Sharjah with the team that they've chosen as well. But I think it would be quite disappointing for them if they weren't to make it through to the final, not only the semi-final, but the final as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go with mine. And my phrase, failure to reach the final for England, would be last chance saloon. And this is regarding, I think, the coaches, the captain, I think this is a team, and you guys mentioned about the build up to this. So much has been focused, and I think on players' workloads, how much they're playing domestic cricket, how much work they've got in their bodies, changing of actions and changing of techniques and all of this sort of stuff. And everything has been focused on the 15, 16 players that are going to be taking place in this Women's World T20. And I think you're putting a lot of eggs in that basket. You are putting all your chips in on this side, getting to the final. And I understand that's the process you want to do, but I also think that if that doesn't pay off for coaches, maybe the captain as well, I think that is, given the resource and the amount of money and all of the things that are given to this England team, and you have done it in this particular way, and you do not reach the final of this competition, I think there are hard questions to be asked of those at the top of the tree. So I am going to go, is that too harsh? I'm going to go Last Chance Saloon.
And so just to clarify, we're moving from one word to a phrase.
It can be a phrase, it can be a word. I did say this on my WhatsApp message, Lydia. Don't try and put me in a bunker here of poor production. I did say a word or phrase.
I thought you were going off piste. I just went straight to the questions. But you're right. You did say, well, actually, I mean, I'm not going to throw you under the bus, Daggers, but we'll go with it. Question number 2.
Sorry. I'm actually, just whilst you're at it, I'm going to read the exact thing I have put on my WhatsApp message. So you come up with a word to finish the sentence, then explain the reasoning behind it, and we open up a discussion. In brackets can be a word or phrase.
Who reads the bits in brackets?
Everyone should read the bit in brackets. Goodness gracious me. Can you imagine reading through a novel, Nat, and just sort of going, oh, that bit's in brackets, which is possibly one of the most important sections of the book, the bit in brackets.
But I will be honest, when I first read it, I also went with just word. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do some of these in just a word. And then I went back and read it again, and I saw phrase. I was like, okay.
So
initially, I didn't read stuff in brackets.
Please alleviate me of any blame for this. The fact that you both can't be bothered to actually read what I put down for you. I think that's hurtful, genuinely. Let's move on. Question 2. The most important player for South Africa will be... Start us off now. Okay,
so there's an obvious one for me, but there's one for me that's not as obvious. So which one would you like me to say first?
You've got one. You've got to choose yourself.
Okay, so I'm going to choose the not so obvious one, and I'm going to say Chloe Tryon. And the reason I say so the reason I say Chloe Tryon is because one, her bowling has come on hugely, and I think she can bowl at pretty much any stage. I enjoyed watching her against the Pakistans in the Pakistan series against the Gauls there, because she's using that arm ball so well with the new ball, and I think that's going to be very important in Dubai in particular, and maybe at times even in Sharjah, because the ball does keep a little bit low there as well. So the way she's being able to bowl with the new ball, and she can bowl a bit later, is huge. But for me, South Africa need that firepower in the middle, and I'd love to see her used a bit earlier in terms of overs. It's not necessarily the batting position she comes in. I just want her to be given overs to bat. And I think she can come in easily at over 13, 14 and make a huge impact for South Africa. So for me, she's my maybe not so obvious one, because I think when people look down the list, there's obviously certain standouts. But I would say Chloe Tryon is going to be, if she fires, I think South Africa have got a really good chance of doing well.
I'm going to go next because... as much as you are, I'm going to try and put this on the camera. I don't know if you can see where I've written that, but my question 2 is Chloe Tryon as well. I couldn't agree with you more. I think she is an absolutely vital part and not underused. But I don't know if she's used in the right way necessarily by South Africa. And I think she could be one of those players that is a game changer. I don't even know if they know what they've got in Chloe Tryon. And I think if you use her the right way, she can be the difference in so many games. Of course, you can talk about the other players within that side, of which there are many. that we'll come on to, I'm sure. But Chloe Tryon was my answer for those exact same reasons, and I think she could genuinely be a game changer for South Africa.
And just to add to that as well, when they play in Sharjah, for example, especially against England, you need to play straight in Sharjah. You can't play square of the wicket, and she is so good playing straight. She's worked, obviously that's a part of her game, she's worked quite hard at, and she's powerful straight too. So I think for me, that it definitely can be a game changer for South Africa.
Yeah.
Lydia Greenway.
Well, I agree. I think she's important, but she actually wasn't the first name that came to my mind. I was similar to Nat. I had one who I thought was obvious and then one not so obvious who I thought Daggers might go for. But my obvious one is Laura Wolver. I think just because obviously she's the captain. It's her first time captaining in a T20 World Cup. She's been in really good form with the bat. She obviously had that fantastic series against India. And I just think if you're going to do well in a World Cup as a captain, you need to be performing to bring everyone with you. So, yeah, that was my obvious one. My less obvious one is Nadine de Klerk, who I actually don't think South Africa use as similar to what you said, Nat, about Chloe. I don't think she is used as well as she could be. Whether she's underrated within that South African squad, I'm not too sure. But I just think she is a match winner with bat and ball. I just think she is a real hustler. So yeah, she's my sort of second choice one in brackets.
Yeah, they've been trying out a couple of different all-rounders recently. In that Pakistan series, they tried out all different combinations for the three. I mean, Marizanne Cup only played the one game. She was my obvious one, by the way. The Marizanne Cup is always going to be a big player, but I thought, she's always going to be a standout anyway. I think you need to find that somebody else to also help her out, because she can't do everything. It's not possible. You're not going to win a World Cup that way around. But they've tried out a few different all-rounders, and I thought, like for me, Annelie Datsun really showed what she can do as well. She has got some serious power, and she hits it clean as well. It's now just finding ways to slot the players in, to find a way to, because South Africa have so many all-rounders that you've got to now find the balance and find the best way to use them. That's Tene, who's bowling a little bit. She probably needs to bowl a little bit more. Marizanne Cup, of course. Nadine de Klerk is a big, big player for South Africa. I think I've always rated her. But yeah, I agree. She if they use her properly again, she can definitely be a match winner.
It's interesting as well you say that, Lyd, because I knew when you said the one that you thought I'd go for, and I was going to say, I bet you think I'm going to go for Nadine de Klerk, because I think she's a fabulous cricketer, and so much to offer. She's never going to run us through a side for you, but she's going to get you the useful 30 or 40 not out that can win you a game. She's going to pick up 2 for spit, and I think there is so much to like about Nadine de Klerk. Just on South Africa, Nat, after making the final of the World T20 in your own backyard last time out, what are the genuine expectations? Has the bar been raised a little bit higher within South Africa?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because if you look at South Africa's record in the format since then, it hasn't been great. They've been better probably in the one-day internationals, really. The T20 formats, I think they're still sort of trying to find a way without Shibna Ismail. She makes a massive difference to this attack. And they've also tried to find a way to manage Marizanne Cup as much as possible, to try and lengthen her career as much as possible. She openly said she was going to retire at the beginning of this year from international cricket, but she was talked into coming back and just staying around for a little bit longer. But that does mean management, and that they've got to make sure, obviously, that they now bring some of the youngsters in, which I think that's what they've been trying to do, is they've brought in a few youngsters that people may not know a lot about. Seshni Naidu made her debut now against Pakistan. She's an interesting one for the future, but she's still very young. The bar has probably been raised, and there will be more expectations on this team now than there would have been going into the World Cup in South Africa, because before that, they hadn't necessarily had the best of times initially, just coming into sort of that World Cup. And I think there would have been an expectation being the home team, but not now. I don't think as much as there would be now, because they've made a final. So I definitely feel that bar has been raised, and there'll be pressure on the girls, especially the ones who participated in that final.
Okay. Let's move on then, and we'll get to question number 3. We're going to talk West Indies. And the question or the statement is as follows. What is the phrase or word that follows this? Deandra Dottin returns to the West Indies. This is blank. Lydia Greenway.
I'm going to go mint. This is mint, which is a word that we use a lot in England, but maybe people listening to this in other countries won't know what it means. But Daggers, you use it quite a lot. I just think it's brilliant. I think it's interesting actually, because there could have been a barrier to her coming back. The West Indies Cricket Board could have said, well, actually, no, you've decided that you're going to retire. We're going to move on with some younger players, which is maybe arguably similar to the situation with Darnay and South Africa. Because obviously there's been murmurs of her coming back to play international cricket. But I think the way that the board have just said, yep, come on back, we want you, we need you, you strengthen our team. Obviously the first player to score an international T20 100.
Thanks for that. That was against South Africa.
Oh, was it against South Africa? Sorry to rub salt into the wound there, Nat. Which is a long time ago, wasn't it? What was it? 14 years ago now. Yeah, 2010. But yeah, she's just an absolute gun. And if she is fit, I know she's had some shoulder issues, had a few other niggles as well. If she's fit and firing, then I think that will only bolster the West Indian side.
Mint is your word. Natalie Germanos, Deandra Dottin returning to the West Indies. This is
a power surge for me, I think. It can be good, and I think it can also go the opposite direction as well. I 100% agree that her coming back, it just bolsters the side, because there was so much on the shoulders of Hayley Matthews, and too much. She can only do so much. She can only carry the batting side so much. And, we even saw it in the WCPL, how if she went out early, everyone had to work for it, and they really did struggle without her. So Hayley Matthews needs some sort of support, and obviously you're going to have Taylor there, who's very experienced, but is she going to give you the power you need in a T20 World Cup? Probably not. Deandra can definitely do it. The first game we saw her at the WCPL coming back, she was very scratchy, which you can expect because she hasn't played. She's been training, she's fit, but she hasn't been actually out in the middle, so she was very scratchy. Then a couple of games later, she hits this 50 out of nowhere, and it's just vintage Deandra Dottin. The strokes that she plays, the power, it's just unbelievable watching her when she can bat like that. She bowled a little bit, but not a lot. And you can see she's not 100% bowling fit, I would say. Her fielding was good, but it's still, again, it's time out in the middle and on the field that she definitely will need. But without her, that side looks a different side completely. She adds a lot to it. But there is always going to be that question mark as to how she gels in the side, because as much as WCPL, she was there, you've got a lot of youngsters looking up to you. You don't have necessarily maybe scars of the past or anything there. Now coming back into the international team, where you do possibly maybe have some relationships that you need to now repair in some ways, it's going to take a bit of time to do that. I know they're out in the UAE a bit earlier than the tournament starts, and they've got some camps, and that might all help them, hopefully bring them together, because a strong West Indies side, we've said this so many times, but a strong West Indies side adds so much to any tournament. So having her, for me personally, I think it's a great thing to have her back. I just hope that it all sort of gels together for the team.
Okay. Power surge. Mint. The cynic Dagnall here is going to give you his phrase. Deandra Dottin returns to the West Indies. This is financially motivated. Now, and I say this, and it sounds like I'm being cruel. I'm not. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with this. And I mentioned this in the previous podcast. Whatever your whatever your yearning is to play cricket for whatever reason, it can be because you want to, or because you love it, or it can also be for the cash. I'm not saying Deandra Dottin is doing this. I am not saying that. What I am saying is that at this moment in time, after the retirement from international cricket, The gigs in franchise cricket are starting to fall away. She didn't get one for the 100. She's not involved in the WPL. Yes, she was involved in the CPL. I think she's got a gig with one of the Melbourne teams in the WBBL. Now, they're not coming as thick and fast. Yeah, they're not coming as thick and fast as they used to do, especially when in the days of the Kia Super League. There is money available out there, and serious money available. And if you're not playing international cricket, what a stage, what a platform the Women's World T20 is to get your name back in and amongst it. And who knows, with an IPL auction, a WPL auction round the corner, it could just generate a little bit of interest for her. And the money is, as we have seen throughout the last couple of years, it's building and it's building and it's building. And I stress, this is not a bad reason for coming back or trying to get yourself back into the consciousness of the cricket watching public. So I think there is a little bit of me that thinks that if she is playing international cricket for the West Indies and she takes someone apart, that might get you a gig in one of the other franchise tournaments, and that is not a criticism. It may not be the reason, but it's just at the back of my mind that could be an area that would be something that is to think about for Deandra Dottin. So, throw the cat amongst the pigeons there, Daggers, just throwing it out there. As minted it is, and as power surgy as it could be, I also think that just this could be an added bonus for her. If she has a good Women's World T20, she could get back amongst the elite of franchise tournaments. So that's where I've gone with it. Let's see how it pans out over the next couple of years. Right, let's bash through the final three statements. I like this question. This statement, the most exciting game of the group will be blank. Natalie Germanos.
I'm going to say England-West Indies. It's actually the last group game that's going to be played. And the reason I say that is because England's going to have played all their games in Sharjah, and now they're going to be playing a game in Dubai, a night game. It is a very different prospect playing in Dubai at night. The dew is a huge factor. The toss is massive. I know the groundsman there, Matt, he tries his absolute best to make sure that he gets rid of the dew as much as he possibly can, but it is not easy, especially this time of year. And we saw with the Men's T20 World Cup in 2021, the difference the dew made and the difference a toss made as well. And I think also with England's selection, I don't think they're as well suited necessarily to a Dubai night game, especially if they're going to end up fielding second and then the ball's coming on a lot better. So it could even be a decider for the group. I hope it is, because you want things to go down to the last game. You don't want it to be decided too early. If the West Indies get things together within the tournament, that could be, for me, the biggest game in the group.
Lydia?
I'm going to go for South Africa, West Indies. And the reason for that is because looking at qualification, in a way, I'm assuming that England are going to get enough wins to qualify. But it could come down to actually who out of South Africa and the West Indies beats each other and gets that extra win under their belt. Because against Bangladesh and Scotland, you would imagine that they would be able to get those wins, and then that could be the knockout game. I actually don't know when it is, but just looking at the group, that was the one for me that looks tasty. My money would be on South Africa. I think they will finish. They're in the best position to finish second. But knowing the West Indies as they do and how they can pull off surprises, you just never know. So that's my one.
Yeah, that's
well, you'll be able to look at the schedule whilst you and Nat are travelling over in first class.
Reading your message.
to Dubai. I think you're both wrong. I think you're both wrong because you're looking at the wrong end of the group. And I think the game, or the most exciting game of Group B, will be the Bangers versus Scotland. That is going to be the most exciting game because, let's be brutally frank, the chances for both sides are going to be pretty limited against the strength of South Africa, England, and most probably the West Indies. And so looking at what Bangladesh have done against strong sides recently, they got battered 5-0 against India. They lost 3-0 to Australia. Now, these are two of the three major sides in the world, so yeah, of course they're gonna struggle against them. Their last victory was actually against in T20 cricket outside of Associate Nations, Thailand and Malaysia. They beat in the Asia Cup. Their last victory was in December against South Africa when Shauna Actor got 5 for. But I just think that they will be focusing. I mean, of course, they'll want to try and win every single game. But I think if you're realistic about it, Bangladesh and Scotland will see each other as the opportunity to get a win on the board and not to finish bottom of their group. Of course, Scotland's success, I believe, surrounds the two Bryce sisters, Catherine and Sarah. I think if they actually manage to stick a partnership together, they could be very dangerous in any particular game, but especially against Bangladesh. The thing I'm looking forward to most is watching you guys with the 3 actors, the 3 cartoons, and the 2 sultanas that are within the Bangladesh side and trying to differentiate amongst them. That is the thing I'm looking forward to most. So there we go. We've got West Indies versus South Africa from Lyd. We've got England versus the West Indies from Nat, and Bangladesh versus Scotland from me. Okay, 2 to go. This is a great question, and it's only because of who we have on the podcast that I actually came up with it, or the statement. Listen very carefully. Listeners, not you two. You already know it. I've sent it to you. The incorrect pronunciation of anything relating to South Africa by all commentators other than ones from South Africa will be blank. Now, let me just repeat that. The incorrect pronunciation of anything relating to South Africa by all commentators other than ones from South Africa will be blank. So basically, what is the word for that? Lydia Greenway.
Well, I don't know if I understand the question, Daggers. Sorry, we have spoken about this already. I've got a name in my head which I think commentators are going to get wrong. So right. Do I give you that name?
Well, no, not necessarily. You've got to give me how it will either feel by the sort of the high wire you walk with other South African commentators within the room. I'm talking about having, let me just boil it down. There is a South African team playing. Natalie Germanos is in the commentary box with you, and you've got a really difficult name or phrase or area of the South Africa that you've got to say, and you know that she's going to be peering over your shoulder, making sure you say it right. That is the feeling that I want to try and get over. So what will that feel like?
Well,
I'll tell you what. I will give you my phrase first. Okay,
go on, then.
I'll go give you mine. Bottom clenchingly cringeworthy, but ultimately hysterical. Okay, that is the phrase I have gone with because I can see it within my mind that if you get the, say for argument's sake, the former city of Port Elizabeth, right? Now, if you say the actual name of that particular city now, which I refuse to say because I constantly get it wrong, I feel Nat Germanos' eyes boring into my soul because I've got it wrong. And she'll be there waiting to correct me, okay? So, let me respond. Let me repeat the question.
Okay. No, I've got the question.
You got it. I'll
say the blank because if I'm honest, the way when you were explaining the question and then you were adding a bit more on it, it was promoting anxiety, which actually is probably how I would feel. So there we go. My palms have started getting sweaty. My armpits have started getting sweaty. There we go. And I know the name it will be as well, Nat, because a lot of the names have clicks in them. So the one name that I've always struggled with is Nonkaloko Laba.
Okay. Firstly, there's no click in her name, by the way.
There's no click in her name. Well, I'm glad you said that. I would have been clicking live on air.
There's no click in her name. And actually, I don't think any of the players this time around have any clicks in their names. Actually,
goodness for that.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at this squad doesn't have any clicks. Okay, so hers Nonkululeku Mlaba. So it's Mlaba. Okay. And actually, my answer to this, because I also kind of misunderstood the question, but I thought you were asking what are the things that are going to be mispronounced. My answer to it was probably about 10 out of the entire squad is going to be mispronounced. Yeah. Because that is likely. And Daggers, that was the theme of the last World Cup, was pronouncing Gqeberha, whereas most people obviously would say Port Elizabeth. That's why we told everyone just say St. George's Park, because that's where it was played, obviously. And if you want to try it, obviously go ahead. But yeah, we just told them just to say St. George's Park, and then you can't get that wrong, because at least that's the ground that it was being played at. Yeah. So
it's interesting though, Nat, because even some of the main names like Darnay van Neerkerk, so I've worked with Darnay before, and I would call her Darnay, but then some people say no, it's Danae.
Yeah,
and it's and Marizan, I would say, well, do you know what I mean? There's just
Marizan Cup, by the way, not Cap. So a lot of people say Cap.
They say Cap, yeah.
Cup. So because a lot of people, some people call it Cappy, but it's actually Marizan Cup, because it's the Afrikaans pronounces A that way. It doesn't pronounce it as Cap. It pronounces it as
there we go.
So even things like that, basically, and it's not Wolfart, it's Wolfart. It's actually quite a hard W. Again, Afrikaans is different with the W and the V. The V is quite soft in Afrikaans, and the W is more harder. So, yeah.
Well, there we go, Daggers. Just watch us freeze whilst we're on commentary.
All I will be doing will be sat on my sofa, just wiping away tears of laughter, as knowing full well the dynamic within the commentary box, and someone will get something wrong, and Nat will have darts. I want you to have darts, Nat, right? And just all I want to hear is little squeaks of pain from other commentators when they mispronounce something, and it's sort of like you just go, oh, Laura Wolfart, you know, as they throw a dart from them. Anyway, even though you didn't understand the statement, I understood it as I wrote it, and as I read it still, it is understandable. However, we shall move on to the final one. Because one thing that we do know is that, and these are not very serious statements at all, but one thing we do know is that the women within the teams of the WWT20 will be fiercely active on social media. So, the Instagram stories of every player will contain blank. Natalie Germanos.
The Burj Khalifa. It has to be. It absolutely has to be on there. Tallest building in the world, I think almost 830 meters high, 160 odd stories. And the light show, obviously, that it has. It's got so many records with the light show, the size, the number of stories, something about the lift being the highest lift because it goes up into the top of it. I think the Burj Khalifa is going to be on everybody's story, because there's going to be a lot of girls, they haven't seen it, they haven't been there possibly, and having a chance to see it. It is quite impressive, I must say.
Yeah, I was going to say the same as Nat, but then I thought I'd go a bit off-piste. So I remember when we were out in Dubai for the fair break competition, we were coaching out there. Every team did this trip out to the sand dunes. So I'm going to go a quad bike, because you could then take a quad bike and go. So this is really off-piste, and it's probably not going to be in everyone's. But for those who are a bit more, adventurous, I think it will be on theirs. I could have gone for a boring one and gone the swimming pool or something like that, but there we go.
I like that. Quad bike is a great answer, and we're going to be looking out for quad bikes. Because you're right. The common ones are gym selfies and pool selfies and stuff like that. Burj Khalifa, absolutely right. And a quad bike is a really interesting one. I've gone for a little bit of a random one as well, which is, and it won't necessarily be apparent to everybody, but it will be for those who have been there. And I think it will be pictures of shopping at Karama.
Yeah.
Now, Karama, for those who know, is just, it's not actually far from Sharjah as well, is it? And it's basically if you want a Hughie Boss something, or a Louis Vuitton, or spelt with an extra I, Louis Vuitton bag, or a pair of shoes by Milbury, that is the place to go. They're blooming good. So if you want something that looks like something else for a far better price, go to Karama. Not that I have ever been there, or nor would I get any knockoff goods at all, whether it be bags, shoes, or watches. But that is one of the places. It's actually really fun to go around and see it all. So I'm going to go with the Karama area, where shopping is absolutely key. It's going to be a fantastic group. It's going to be a fantastic tournament. The 10 teams are looking very, very strong. It's difficult. I mean, it's easy to pick a favourite, of course, but to actually pick a winner in the conditions that are going to be out, or is going to meet them in Dubai, it's going to be a thrilling tournament, Nat. Of the things that you're looking forward to seeing most over the next 2.5 weeks, because the condensed nature of the tournament is actually great in itself. There's a lot of cricket, thick and fast. It's a lovely time for the tournament. So just finally from you, and thank you for your time and our bonkers game that we've just played. What is the things that you're going to be looking out for?
Yeah, it's a good question, because, as you say, it's very sort of compact as well, because a lot of the double headers and they're close together. You generally would stay in Dubai and you just travel to Sharjah. It's not a long trip over and that type of thing. But I think more than anything, I'm looking forward to seeing how the girls handle the conditions, because it is very different. Dubai is a massive stadium. As I mentioned earlier, dew is a massive factor there, and how they handle the wet ball. It gets really wet. I mean, we saw in the WCPL how much they struggled there. I mean, it was almost like it had rained. I mean, if it had rained, you wouldn't actually be going back on the field. It was that wet. So it isn't easy for them to handle, and it's just more about that preparation and adapting to it. And Sharjah is very different, much smaller ground. Generally keeps a bit low. There's normally no grass on that. They did recently relay it. So I'm interested to see what they prepare for this. But generally it keeps a lot lower there. It's got a bit of a sheen on it. You have to play straight. So the spinners will be a big factor in Sharjah, trying to get people to play a bit squarer. So I just think more than anything, I'm very interested to see who adapts the best to the conditions, because I think it's going to be very different to what they're expecting. And the two grounds have got very different characters as well. So adaptation for me is going to be massive. And I'm also interested to see how Australia is going to be going under new leadership. It's something, that's different for them. It's in some ways uncharted territory in some ways, because obviously Lydia is very experienced. But I'm very interested to see how Australia goes in this tournament.
Well, it's great to have you along, and we look forward to watching you, and of course watching you, Lyds, out there as well. There's so much to look forward to in the tournament. Have you had fun on your Daggers and Lyds debut?
Absolutely, I always have fun with the two of you. That is an absolute definite.
Oh, bless you. Well, we shall hopefully catch up before too long, but have a great time over in the UAE. Lyds, the next time we'll be speaking, will be whilst you're out there, and don't forget, we'll be covering and doing as much as we possibly can during the Women's World T20 on the Daggers and Lyds podcast. But from all of us, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for playing along. Don't forget, you can follow us at Charles Dagnall, at Lydia Greenway on social media. And don't forget to watch us on our YouTube channel at Daggers and Lyds. But for now, see you.